Hey there, YouTube. JustInBasil. We're going to look at the top 10 cards from Brilliant Stars. Now, these are my top 10 cards, and as a player, of course, there's going to be much more of a focus on cards that are great for playability. So if you're a collector, this list is probably not for you. However, if you're interested in playing the game, or if you already play the game, I think you might be in agreement with me on a lot of these. This set is frankly incredible. It's the best set in probably 5 years that we've had in the trading card game, and the sheer list of honorable mentions is pretty big, but frankly, it could be even larger. The set is just amazing. Let's With that said, let's go ahead and start. Not quite in the top 10, but with a little highlights, shall we? So we're going to look at first a couple of cards that I'm calling my chase cards for the set. These are both going to appear in the trainer gallery. This is the Sylveon V featuring Valerie and Mimikyu V featuring Acerola. Beautiful cards. There's a lot of really cool cards in the trainer gallery in this set, and there probably will be also in future trainer galleries. We didn't get quite all of the character rare arts that Japan got in VMAX Climax, so most likely we'll be getting them in future trainer gallery sets. That said, these cards are both gorgeous. I'd be extremely excited to pull either one of them. Sylveon is one of my very favorite evolutions and one of my favorite Pokemon in general. And I love Acerola, and I especially love this art. It's just super, super cool. All right, now, before we get to the honorable mentions, we're going to have a quick special mention or two. Two, I think, specifically. The first one is Boss's Orders. Now, the reason this is a special mention, not an honorable mention, or not even on the list itself, is because this card is already legal in the standard format. It already is out. This is just new artwork. But here's something I wanted to point out. This card is now extending its legality. You see the F regulation marker on there. Previously, Boss's Orders was D regulation mark, which meant that if it didn't get refreshed with this F regulation marker, it would have rotated in summer of this year, so August or September. However, because of this F regulation mark, it's going to be good for another 2 years. We have Boss's Orders for another 2 years. Now, Boss's Orders, really strong card. If you're not familiar with the card, it has what's called a gusting effect. You switch from your opponent's bench Pokemon with their active Pokemon, so you can force something that's damaged or vulnerable from their bench up to the active spot and take your knockouts or do whatever you need to with it, whether that's stall it out or whatever. It's just an extremely strong card, and it's frankly kind of good to see it and know that it's going to be around for a little while longer. It also means that all those Boss's Orders you have are going to be good for another 2 years, so you don't even have to get these Cyruses. But honestly, Boss's Orders Cyrus has some really awesome artwork, and the art you see here is great, but the holofoil actually does make it look better, which is saying something because I'm not a huge fan of the holofoil patterns from Sword and Shield. But Boss's Orders looks really good with this art. Now, like Boss's Orders, Professor's Research is also receiving a new print here in Brilliant Stars, and like Boss's Orders, it now has the F regulation mark. This is a great draw card. You've seen it. I'm sure you've seen it all over the place. If you're a new player, discarding your hand can definitely seem scary, but drawing 7 cards is an insane effect, and we have it for another 2 years. So, great. All those Professor Oak arts that I'm getting or am going to get in the very, very near future, if I ever feel like spending all that money, they're going to be good for another couple years, which is awesome. That means that research is going to be around and probably going to be in every deck, which I'm okay with. I'm just glad that Marnie's rotating, or will be rotating come August or September of this year. All right, so now we're going to jump into the actual honorable mentions. These are cards that are new to the set or not currently legal in standard format. Not quite making the top 10, but they're still good cards, or very interesting cards at the very least. So with that, let's jump to Empoleon. So Empoleon has an ability called Emergency Ascent. Once during your turn, if this card is in your discard pile and you have no cards in your hand, you can play this card onto your bench. Then draw 3 cards. So if you're able to clear your hand, or if you can get your hand with no cards in it, Empoleon will allow you to just draw 3 cards and immediately get out and Empoleon on the bench. Now, Empoleon's attack is not super, super strong, but that draw effect may be, depending on maybe your opponent's controlling your hand size, or maybe you're just bricking and you have a dead hand and you're waiting on your top deck to be good and it just isn't, but you can at least play the card. Empoleon's an option, right? So for a single water energy, you have the access to Water Arrow. This deck does 60 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon. So that means bench or active. Not bad, right? It could be a knockout on a weaker Pokemon on the bench. It could be something to finish off a bench Pokemon. It's not a horrible card. But it's on the honorable mentions because there's so much other good stuff. Again, Torterra, a really cool card. We tested this on stream a couple times and a lot off stream. This card's really, really strong. Even as a stage 2, it's quite potent. But it's an honorable mention because there's just so much good stuff in this set. So Evo Press for Grass Colorless, 50 times damage. This attack does 50 damage for each evolution Pokemon you have in play. That adds up real quick. You can get to 300 pretty quickly, pretty easily if you have decent search in your deck. And because the Grottle in Brilliant Stars has the ability to search out a grass Pokemon, you already have inbuilt search on top of all the ball cards that you're playing and the draw cards that you're playing. It's potent. It hits like a truck, but it is a stage 2. There is that a little bit, but even as a stage 2, it's still quite strong and still quite potent. Female's Cheer. So this is a card that's very interesting, not necessarily because of its impact on the current decks that are out right now, because this is more of a control or alternate win condition kind of card than it is a traditional attacking deck card. But the effect is interesting, right? Shuffle up to 3 in any combination, Pokemon and supporter cards except Female's Cheer from your discard pile into your deck. So you don't have Endless Recursion with this particular card, but you do have the ability to shuffle supporter cards, be those things like Female Grunt, right? Put the energy attached to your Pokemon into your opponent's hand, right? Or to your opponent's Pokemon and back into your opponent's hand. So these disruption effects on supporter cards it allows you to throw them back in your deck. You can recycle it, you can reuse them. This is especially interesting for expanded too. You have a lot more options that this could be shuffling back on your off turns when you're not needing to interrupt your opponent. And so not only are you able to recycle the support cards, you're also able to recycle Pokemon. Now, previously, with the most recent really strong control deck there was in Standard, which was a Oranguru control or Pidgeotto control, Oranguru was the center of it, you would have maybe wanted to recycle an Oranguru. Now, depending on what that particular, what the star of the show may be, but it's probably Zoroark, but it could be anything, or one of its partners, right? You shuffle what you need back, add your supporter or two that you need. Oh, pretty interesting card. Collapse Stadium. So Collapse Stadium, each player can't have more than 4 bench Pokemon. If a player has 4 or more bench Pokemon, they discard bench Pokemon until they have 4 Pokemon on the bench. The player who played this card discards first. If more than one effect changes the number of bench Pokemon, use a smaller number. This is kind of like Perilicity of the Past. It does affect both players, and it only goes down to 4. But this still gives you the option to ditch damaged Pokemon or vulnerable Pokemon like Luminion V, or Crobat V, or Kricketune V, or any of these Pokemon that suddenly are problems for your prize trade, right? You can ditch them, get rid of them. Or, by extension, you can drop the amount of damage that your opponent can do with something like Suicune or Entei because you're crushing both benches down. Also a good card. And finally, in the honorable mentions, Sharon's Care. Put one of your colorless Pokemon that has any damage counters on it and all attached cards into your hand. So this is kind of like Acerola from Burning Shadows, except she could do any damaged Pokemon. Sharon's Care is a little bit more limited, but the effect is still really strong, right? You scoop up your big beefy Pokemon that has damage on it, get it back into your hand, and it effectively heals it all up. You play it back down or play its basic back down, and you start to cycle all over again. Sharon's Care is a nice, potent, strong effect, and we'll probably see play. Okay, with that, let's go to the top 10. Roseanne's Backup. Roseanne's Backup says, choose one or more. Shuffle a Pokemon from your discard pile into your deck. Shuffle a Pokemon Tool card from your discard pile into your deck. Shuffle a Stadium card from your discard pile into your deck. And shuffle an Energy card from your discard pile into your deck. So you could do one of these, or you could do all 4 of them. It doesn't matter. Way awesome effect, right? Now, again, kind of like with Female's Cheer, it's probable that a lot of aggro decks or attacking decks Probably won't make use of this unless they really need one of these specific effects, like recovering a stadium card or recovering a special energy. But this is another option for alternate win condition decks. Something like Durant might make use of this to get back one of its shovels, or to get back one of its special energies, its twin energy or its double turbo energy, so that it has access to maybe a 7th, or depending on how you're building your deck, a 9th double energy. Very potent, good effect. It's nice to see tool recovery in standard formats. Nice to see stadium recovery and energy recovery in standard, special energy specifically, because this can do both special and basic. It's good. It's really, really good. And it's something that's going to see play, but we'll see how. It could be great to search off at Aluminium, maybe, or maybe it's just something that you use when you need it. I don't think it's ever going to be more than 1 or a 2 of, but it's a good card nevertheless. And in 9th place, Magma Basin. Magma Basin says, once during each player's turn, that player may attach a fire energy card from their discard pile to one of their benched fire Pokemon. If a player attached energy to a Pokemon in this way, put 2 damage counters on that Pokemon. This is pretty good energy acceleration. On stream, we tested both Entei and Charizard V-Star, so Entei V and Charizard V-Star, and this card was great in both of them. Is this a welder? No, it's not. Is it still really good? Heck yes, it is. This is an amazing card. It's extremely good acceleration. It's going to break something in the future. Do I think it's going to make Charizard a tier 1 card? No, I don't. In fact, I'm not even sure they would make Charizard a tier 2 card. Pretty decent in a vacuum, but probably not in the current meta, especially with Ice Rider running around again. I don't see it. And Suicune's never going away at this point. Do I think it's going to make Entei a tier 1 card? No, I don't. Do I think it make it a tier 2 card? Maybe. A little harder to say. Again, both Ice Rider and Suicune are still running around. Suicune is kind of just better in a lot of ways, but Entei can also be a lot beefier. So depending on the matchup and depending on how popular the water decks are, Entei might see some play. Either way, though, Magma Basin is amazing, and it's going to be an instant look at for any fire deck going forward in standard format for the next 2 years. This card's great. 100% deserves to be on this top 10 list, and I look forward to seeing how it's used in the future. Cynthia's Ambition. This card is amazing. Draw cards until you have 5 cards in your hand. If any of your Pokemon were knocked out during your opponent's last turn, draw until you have 8 cards instead. Now, in testing, we played this primarily with Torterra, but we also used it with decks like Durant. These are single prizer decks, so keep that in mind when I'm saying what I'm saying here. The effect of this draw is so freaking strong. With Torterra, my opponent was playing Torterra. I knocked out their Torterras 2 turns in a row, and because of how their deck was built, they were able to draw 8 cards off of Cynthia's Ambition 2 turns in a row. So Cynthia's Ambition, top deck Cynthia's Ambition, was able to put their hand down, use all the cards they needed to, get their board state back to where it needed to be, and again, take a knockout, and then the very next turn when they got knocked out, again, Cynthia's Ambition, and the draw is just insane. It cannot be understated how insane this card is. People I know are comparing it a lot to Bruno. Bruno is a shuffle draw 4 or shuffle draw 7 if your opponent knocked out one of your Pokemon. Bruno is interesting. I think, though, as a general rule, Cynthia's Ambition is stronger. Cynthia's Ambition is very potent, and I can actually see it maybe even being used as a 1 or 2 of in 2 prizer decks. Probably not at all in 3 prizer decks because you're not going to be getting knocked out enough to make use of it. But this card is broken, and in the best way possible. I look forward to seeing this in Standard, and I hope that maybe it pushes Marnie out of the decks a little bit, just because this card is so good and so potent. This is one of the best things for single prizer decks right now. I'm so glad it got printed. Number 7, Bibarel Ability, Industrious Incisors. Once during your turn, you may draw until you have 5 cards in your hand. We don't even care about the attack. You're not going to be attacking this card unless you're absolutely desperate. The ability is why you play this. This is Octillery from Breakthrough. It's the same effect, different Pokemon, different type, but this is Octillery. That's what Octillery did, and that's what Bibarel does. Draw until you have 5 cards. Now, Cynthia has that effect as a supporter. Bibarel has it as an ability, though. If you have multiple Bibarel out, you're drawing off of each one of these Industrious Incisors, as long as you can draw cards up to 5, right? So that may be, depending on if your hand is empty, that could be 3 or 4 cards, that could be 5 cards. If you're able to get an Ultra Ball or something else that thins cards in your hand, that could be 3 or 4 more cards off of a second Bibarel. This card is extremely strong. We actually replaced, when we were testing, we replaced the Inteleon engine in Torterra with Bibarel, and found that Bibarel was so much better in Torterra than Inteleon that we literally dropped the Inteleon engine and dropped testing for Inteleon completely for Torterra. It just wasn't worth it. Bibarel, on the other hand, was just incredible and absolutely worth it. I definitely see this going forward in a number of decks, single prizers, multi-prizers, in general, just as a supplementary draw card. And I think maybe if we get a replacement for Marnie, maybe if we get an in or an admin or something else similar to that, where we have this new hand disruption, maybe something a little bit more potent than Judge, Bibarel will see play, simply because, you know, for example, if they're hitting you with in and taking you down to 2 or 3 cards because you have 2 or 3 cards remaining in your prizes, this is something that allows you to breathe, right? This is your recovery. But the flip side of that is because something like Ultra Ball is in format, you're able to thin your hand, you're able to draw cards, and your bricking state is just not going to be there as often because you can draw fairly easily with Bibarel. Now, the biggest competition for Bibarel is Cinccino, and Cinccino says, you know, discard, draw 2, discard 1, draw 2, discard 1, draw 2. You can always use it as long as you have a card in your hand. With Bibarel, though, you're not drawing 2, you could literally be drawing 5. So, definitely worth considering, depending on which deck you're using or which deck you're building around. Do you need the discard synergy that Cinccino offers, or would you rather maybe be drawing more and more often? If you find that your deck frequently has a very small hand, Bibarel's your guy. Very, very potent guy. Number 6, Double Turbo Energy. It says, as long as this card is attached to a Pokemon, it provides double colorless energy. The attacks of the Pokemon this card is attached to do 20 less damage to your opponent's Pokemon before applying weakness and resistance. So Double Turbo Energy, again, another one of these really crazy cards. So this is like Twin Energy, except it can be attached to a multi-prize Pokemon like Pokemon V or V Max, and still will provide those 2 energy. So Twin Energy, when it's attached to a Pokemon V, for example, it just provides 1, so you're not really getting the full benefit of it. But this provides 2. It just reduces the attack damage by 20. So in a deck like Durant, for example, where you don't care about the damage, this is just an extra Twin Energy. This is amazing, right? This is exactly what you want. It was for extra consistency to find those energy, to be able to use those energy to get your attacks off. For a deck like Mad Party, right? This is, again, maybe your 5th and 6th Twin Energy. This is what you need to make sure that you're hitting those energy and you're hitting your attacks consistently. It's great. That minus 20 can be impactful, but we have choice spells. We'll look at that in the future here. A little spoiler there. Where you're going to be maybe counteracting a little bit of that damage reduction, but all the same, that double energy is nuts. There's another card on here we'll look at in a little bit that uses double turbo energy to be absolutely insane. So we'll keep going, just because double turbo energy really needs to be talked about in the context of the cards. But the card's really great. Double colorless energy. Don't sleep on it. It's good. Number 5, Manaphy Ability, Wave Veil. Prevent all damage onto your benched Pokemon by your opponent's attacks. Now that's specifically attacks, not damage counters. So stuff like Dragapult VMAX that drops damage counters on the bench is not going to be prevented by Manaphy's Wave Veil. But stuff like Jolteon's attack, okay, that will be blocked. Represent Arceus V VMAX's attack, that will be blocked. This gives decks that have really squishy benches, or just have big benches or vulnerable benches in general, a chance. Right? They can protect themselves. They can force these spread decks or these sniping decks to actually maybe take a knockout that isn't just an easy double KO all the time. Right? It's like Mew from Unbroken Bonds. It's exactly the same effect of the ability, but on Manaphy, on 70 HP. 70 HP is also really important. So that 70 HP means that you're going to survive an extra quick shooting, or you'll have to have a zigzagoon ping or something. So if they are dropping damage counters on you, trying to knock out your Manaphy that way, you have that little extra bit of survivability that makes it last a bit longer and allows you to get a recovery option out, or maybe a second Manaphy if you're playing one, if you really, really need that Manaphy. Manaphy is great. This is another card in Brilliant Stars that can allow single prize decks to function again. It will help a lot of two prize decks, especially decks that are running the Inteleon engine, right? Stuff like Rayquaza that has fluffy, really squishy sheep. Manaphy can be there to protect them. It's a great card. I'm really glad to see this effect back. I wish maybe that it weren't necessary to bring this effect back, but because we have so much bench sniping and bench damage right now, Manaphy just seems like a necessity, and this is going to help. This will absolutely help the game, at least the standard format. Okay, number 4. Lumineon V Ability, Luminous Sign. When you play this Pokemon from your hand onto your bench during your turn, you may search your deck for a supporter card, reveal it, and put it into your hand, then shuffle your deck. This means that if you have a supporter you need, whether that's a setup supporter like Gloria, or that is a gusting supporter like Boss's Orders, you have access to it if you have access to Lumineon V. So you can find basically any supporter in your deck off of a Quick Ball or off an Ultra Ball. That's really, really good. For those of you who played while Tapu Lele was around, Tapu Lele GX from Guardians Rising, or Jirachi EX, or the Lapras from forever ago, they all have the same effect. This effect is insane. It makes for some very consistent decks. It is a little unfortunate that it's coming out in a time where you cannot play supporters going first, although fingers crossed maybe they'll revert that come Generation 9's base sets rules. I kind of hope, because I don't like having how it is right now, but that's a whole other discussion. But very strong card. This can be absolutely vital for finding your boss's orders when you need it. This can be vital for finding an unbricking card like Professor's Research when you need it. Or maybe like your deck really needs a specific card like Acerole's Premonition. Lumineon means you have access to it, and that's something that couldn't be said before. Before, if in Standard you wanted to find a specific supporter, you ran a lot of copies of it, you ran Pokegear, and then you crossed your fingers, right? Now you can run 1 or 2 copies and a Lumineon V, and you'll probably find it when you need it, and that's great, right? That's amazing. That's exactly the kind of card we need right now. Something that's back on Lumineon V. Something that's not just draw the cards in your deck to find what you want. It's find the card that you need, right? And it's a basic too. So it's not like Drizzile where you have to evolve into it. It's a basic, so you don't have to have a Sobble on the bench in order to take advantage of it. All right, number 3. You're going to spoil, but Choice Belt. Choice Belt, number 3. The attacks to the Pokemon this card is attached to do 30 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon V before applying weakness and resistance. This is nuts. This is Choice banned from Guardians Rising. Again, Guardians Rising, the last really, really strong card or set for players. Choice Belt is Choice banned, but for Pokemon V instead of GX and EX. That plus 30 is huge. That is a massive boost for single prizers. It's a massive boost for 2 prizers, and it's a massive boost for even 3 prizers. Right? This means decks that were having to take 3 hits to take a knockout are now taking 2. Decks that maybe needed 2 to take a knockout may need only 1. This is a boost to stuff like Mad Party that could use an extra boost. This is an amazing boost for things that have to use double turbo energy. Double turbo energy obviously is reducing their damage by 20. This boosts it by 30. So effectively this is a plus 10. This basically turns Choice Belt into a Vitality Band of sorts. If you have a double turbo energy attached, a Vitality Band just increases the damage by 10. So Choice Belt, an instant plus 30, that's really, really strong. That means you're hitting better breakpoints in terms of knockout. So maybe your attack only would do 150. Now it does 180. So that means instead of having to take 2 hits to knock out something like the Crobat, you have 1. It's awesome. That means you're just going to do better in that prize trade simply because you're actually able to get the knockout you need when you need it with Choice Belt. Number 2. And I'm cheating on number 2. I know I'm cheating, but really it's a package. They go together in decks. If you're playing one, you're gonna play the other because they're both broken. And I kind of mean that literally in this case, where they're just kind of a little strong I would say Arceus V Star and to a degree also Arceus V, they're the new Zoroark GX. This is the card that you're going to slap into a deck and you're going to go, okay, this is going to work now. And it will. When we tested Mimikyu V Max, and frankly, the deck should not have functioned. But because of Arceus V Star, it did. Is it a top tier deck? No, but it functioned, which is more than was expected of it. It actually won games, which is way more than was expected of it. Arceus V Star is just insane. Arceus V is insane. Trinity Charge, search your deck for 3 basic energy cards and attach them to your Pokemon V in any way you like, then shuffle your deck. So Trinity Cards, again, is that double colorless energy. We talked earlier about double turbo energy in Pokemon V. That means you can attach a double turbo energy to Arceus V, have it in the active spot, attack with Trinity Charge, power up whatever Pokemon V you need on your bench, evolve them, do whatever you need. Or maybe you're charging up the Arceus V itself. Just flood your board with energy with Trinity Charge and go nuts, right? That turn 1 Trinity Charge is so strong. I know for people who haven't tested this format, who haven't played Arceus V and V Star yet, this seems like just, foaming at the mouth, these cards, but frankly, these cards are so strong. And once you get a chance to test with them or get a chance to play with them in general, you'll absolutely see that. Arceus V Star has Trinity Nova, which is very similar to Trinity Charge, but it does damage. It does 200 damage, and it costs 1 extra energy, but it's kind of worth it because you just have that 20 energy from turn 1, attach something like a water energy or whatever color deck you're running, right? And then you're doing 200 damage or 180 with the double turbo. Search deck for 3 basic energy cards, so again, just like Trinity Charge, and attach them to your Pokemon V in any way you like. So you're doing damage and you're setting yourself up. So you do your Trinity Charge, you get the 3 energy in play, do Trinity Nova, get 3 more energy in play, and start getting damage in there for knockout. But it gets even better. But wait, there's more. So not only do you have 280 HP, you have this insane V-Star power. So V-Star power, for those of you who aren't familiar, is a once per game ability or attack. So think of this like the GX attacks in the Sun and Moon era. If you're familiar with those. If not, here's your quick idea, right? V-Star power, one time in a whole game, you can pick 1 V-Star power. It doesn't matter which V-Star power, but you can use 1 V-Star power. So whether that's Arceus V-Star Starbirth or Fluffball Star on, I think it's Whimsicott V-Star rather, and you pick 1 and use that 1. Doesn't matter how many you have in your deck, but you have to use only 1 of them total. And you can use that effect, right? So let's say you pick Arceus V-Star effect. Starbirth says, during your turn, you may search your deck for up to 2 cards and put them into your hand, then shuffle your deck. You can't use more than 1 V-Star power in a game. So if you use Starbirth, right? You search your deck for 2 cards, put them in your hand. You don't have to reveal them because it's any 2 cards. Any 2 cards. That can be your energy, that can be an evolution incense, that can be your evolution. Say you want to go straight for the evolution, that anything. This is like a double computer search with no discard requirement, and it's insane. It is absolutely insane. That could be your boss. It's literally anything. 2 of anything. It cannot be understated how insane this effect is. Arceus V-Star is just nuts. Right? Again, Arceus V, we've read the card. Arceus V-Star, we've read the card. They're really, really strong. You're going to see them everywhere. They're going to be in a lot of decks. I would even say probably over half of the decks now are kind of like how the Drizzile engine is a lot of stuff. It's going to be a similar situation with the Arceus V-Star and Arceus V, where you're just going to see it pop up in a lot of stuff. Because its effect is so strong, because its damage is so strong, Arceus V-Star becomes an alternate attacker, right? Let's say you're playing Ice Rider Calyrex VMAX. You're weak to Steel, and maybe your opponent is playing Zacian V. Now you just don't attack with Ice Rider, you just attack with Arceus V-Star. Suddenly you have this alternate attacker built into the deck that you can use in matchups like that you wouldn't have had otherwise. It's so good. Now, I've been gushing about Arceus or V and V-Star, and you're thinking, okay, this is number 2. What the heck is number 1? Now, if you followed me for long enough, if you've been watching the streams, or if you've talked to me or to anyone that knows me on the Discord server, you know exactly what number 1 is, because it's my favorite card of all time. Period. Favorite of any type of card. And that is Ultra Ball. Oh, how we have missed it. Ultra Ball says discard 2 cards from your hand. If you do, search your deck for a Pokemon, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle your deck. This replaces Evolution Incense in a lot of decks. Maybe not necessarily completely in decks that play the Drizzile engine, but in decks that need to evolve in general, this often will take that spot. Why? Because Evolution Incense finds an evolution. Ultra Ball finds whatever it is you need it to find. Whether that's a part of a union, whether that's a basic Pokemon, an evolution Pokemon, or something in between, it finds it. Ultra Ball finds the Pokemon you need when you need it. It's like a supercharged Quick Ball. The level of consistency improvement this represents for a lot of decks cannot be understated. This means that you're getting your Houndoums out when you want them because you can actually find them. This means turn 1, you're getting your Houndours out. This is for a single strike, right? You're getting out what you need when you need it because you're not getting a handful of Evolution Incense and going, ah, darn, and then having to discard them away with Professor's Research. You just get what you want when you need it, right? Because you have Ultra Ball. You have access now. Ultra Ball is that little missing piece for a lot of decks. I know I mentioned Single Strike, and it does help Single Strike a lot, but the deck that we saw the biggest improvement in, just by literally swapping 1-for-1 Evolution Incense or Ultra Ball, was Rayquaza VMAX. Now, does Rayquaza VMAX become a Tier 1 deck because of Ultra Ball? No. No, it doesn't. But it does see a marked improvement with Ultra Ball. And I think that's going to be the case with a lot of decks. Another big one that saw a huge improvement with Ultra Ball is Mad Party. Mad Party loves that discard synergy that Ultra Ball provides. And because you have Ultra Ball, you're able to find your Bunnelby, you're able to find, depending on, again, what build you're running of Mad Party, your Crobats, your Krickettoons, your Articunos, your whatever support Pokemon you're running, right? It's finding that for you when you need it, and it's thinning out all those little squishy guys to the discard pile so that you're doing more damage with the Mad Party attack. So this is boosting Mad Party. This means you're getting your water energy in the discard pile for stuff like Melanie. You're getting your fire energy in the discard pile for stuff like Magma Basin. Ultra Ball is my favorite card ever, and that's why. Because it just provides that massive consistency boost to decks. Now, barring a reprint, Quick Ball will rotate in August. So they probably won't be playing together for very long. So right now, a lot of decks are going to be for Quick Ball, for Ultra Ball, and that's great. But just for Ultra Ball in general is so huge, and I'm so looking forward to playing in actual tournaments with Ultra Ball again. Now, obviously, we've done casual stuff here at my place for testing and my local playgroups in general, but it's just great to see Ultra Ball officially back as a card and in standard format, and I think that Ultra Ball absolutely deserves the #1 spot in this list. Now, if you disagree with me, or if you disagree with any parts of my list, or maybe it was just something I said in general, feel free to leave a comment in the comments below. Leave a comment. Be nice about it. Be civil in general. Be nice to everyone. But if you do want to see these cards or any other cards from the highlights list for Brilliant Stars, do visit JustInBasil.com at the link in the description. And as always, guys, thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.